Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Freestyle Chess Grand Slam Tour. This is the final event of 2025, and it is the semifinal round. We have Magnus Carlsen taking on Jawahir Sindarov, the World Cup champion, and we also have Aronian taking on Vincent Keymer. These four are shaping up to be four of the best freestyle chess players in the world, and so it will be a very, very exciting semifinal round. Sindarov has defeated Magnus in the round robin, yeah, I mean, he is a force to be reckoned with in this format. So without further ado, I will take you through all of the most important games of the semifinals, and then I will give you an update on where we stand, all right? That was just about the fastest intro that I can give you, so here we go. Friendly reminder, the pieces are selected randomly before the games, and then the players have a chance to strategize different openings and so on and so forth. Sometimes certain setups benefit one color, sometimes they benefit the other color, sometimes it hovers around equality. In this very, very first game, we had a Caro-Kann defense. Not really, but you get what I'm saying. This king and this rook castle to these two squares, this king and this rook castle to these two squares. Magnus played f6, this kind of setup with c6, f6, and actually then played e5, which Levon against Vincent, Levon went for the exact same concept. And so this is the way that he opted to fight back. Generally speaking, Magnus does like to get his queen involved, so it will be interesting to see how he will do if that is not a possibility. They get 30 minutes for the entirety of the game. There's a lot of deep strategy to this format. To be completely transparent with you, I am not particularly interested in trying to dive into the intricacies of every position. I am far too stupid to do that, and that means so are you. So we should just watch what these guys do. That's what, because these players have already, true to their style, have learned different opening setups in different freestyle positions. You know, we are still trying to learn move 3 of the London opening. Bishop f7, bishop f2, both sides castle, and it's quite clear from the opening that, you know, this seems to be the way to go. So we have a total symmetrical pawn structure in the center of the board, which means there will be a little bit of a wrestling match for who wants to dominate which position and where your pieces are going to go. Sindarov opts to take on e5, looking for a little bit of clarity, and then brings his knight, and then Magnus copies him and does the exact same thing. Yet, in this set of trades toward the middle, where both guys lose an f and a d pawn, this bishop is worse than this bishop. And the structure of the knights and the setup of the knights is also significant, because what Magnus now does is he does a little horsey ritual, knight t6, knight t7, knight f6, and already he has a better position. So just simply on the positioning of the horses, his are kind of closer to the center of the farm. Sindarov's is wandering on the side of the highway, you know, off of Tashkent. Let it be known, I guarantee if I drove like 30 minutes outside of Tashkent, there would be horses. I remember I was in Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia. This was like 6 years ago. The amount of horses was like, I think there was more. There was many, many, many more horses than people. Like there must be. So the horse is over here. It's not doing particularly much. This horse is over here. And, you know, the thing about Magnus is when he gets a little bit ahead in one of these games, in pure positional understanding, even if it's freestyle, he wins. Really. So he plays a5. This is a very easy move to explain. It has nothing to do with the pawn. It has everything to do with the bishop going to this long diagonal. King h1, that's why that happened. Bishop a7. Now the knight either has to go back or white has to commit pawns to the side of the board, which is not particularly nice. And now b5, nice little idea, fighting for control of space and also making sure that white can never take this pawn. So it's just simply a weakness. In the long run, removal of a weakness, I should say. In the long run, the a file will become useful for black as well, and a4 potentially could also be used to restrict space further. Bishop f6. Now, very nice idea from black. Obviously, the alternative was losing the queen, but I'm simply saying, like, these two pawns serve nicely in the center. The king can always go to h8, going to be totally comfortable there. You have ideas to attack on the g file. White doesn't have an easy target here, so the knight goes to c2. Now Magnus takes. He gets rid of his own bishop because he's damaged the pawn structure of Sindarov, and he plays knight to c4. This pawn will stay here. This knight is beautifully anchored. This bishop still sucks, by the way. I talked about that like 2.5 minutes ago. Yeah, this bishop is still ass. The knight is coming to d2. This is weak in the long run. This is weak in the short run. This is weak for black now, but it's really hard to actually get to. And you can tell from... you can tell just how difficult the position is for white based on the time. It is 1 minute and 44 seconds for white and 15 and a half of them for black. And friendly reminder, they started the game with 30. So clearly something has gone terribly wrong, right, for Sindarov, who does not like his position, knight e3. And the thing about Magnus is he has to continue to put the clock pressure. And sometimes when your opponent is down to 40 seconds, you do get a little nervous, not because you're winning, but they don't have any time. And so in the back of your mind, you're like, do I play fast or do I play slow? Because if I play slow, they get to think more. So it kind of puts a little pressure on you. Magnus, very methodical, though, sends it again to this position where his bishop is just better than white's bishop, and he goes to an endgame. Very instructive move, queen to g5. In fact, it is the only move to continue the advantage. A lot of people here would just kind of keep the pieces around. There's a hanging rook, by the way, but you would keep the pieces. No, because then white would activate the rook and go for mate. Instead, you transform it like this, and white has nothing. White will just lose because you're going to try to push these pawns, put the rook on f2, bring the king off the back rank, and black doesn't have any white doesn't have any counterplay. So one slight inaccuracy was g4, apparently. He had a better move, but okay, he plays g4, and then he just gets right back to business. Sindarov gets absolutely nothing going in this game. Rook d3 just eats every pawn. Every pawn in white's position is going to fall. Rook c3, rook c1. I always find it funny how Magnus wins games in freestyle that look like his regular over-the-board games. They just have absolutely, no ability for resistance by the opponent, and he is queening his pawn. Quite iconic, dare I say, that somewhere in the middle game, I told you that these pawns, on C, B, and A could potentially, go down in the long run. And he literally won the game with the A pawn, right? And that is very instructive. So, look, Sindarov, Bright Star, beat Magnus, World Cup champ. Yeah, there's levels to this, man. There's really levels to it, and that's Magnus is going to put him away in the next game. Or is he? And is Sindarov the new emerging superstar of the world? Let's see. Magnus with the white pieces. In freestyle, it doesn't really matter. If you have white in classical chess and you need a draw, you can generally get it, because what you can do is you can take any opening they throw at you and take it into the most dry, boring territory. And then black has to take massive risk. In this format, that is not possible. Even though this is a different, starting position, we do see a degree of difference. Now, Magnus plays knight d3, gives up a pawn, but goes to win it back. Brings his queen out. We know this man is going to do this basically every chance that he gets. And I think he created a level of stability here, but Sindarov was not to be messed with, man. He's still down 20-10. So even in a must-win situation, his time management was rough. b6, a5, he pushed Magnus back. At this point, Magnus must be feeling good. Good position with white. Maybe very, very slightly worse, but even in freestyle, you don't even understand what that really means. Up 12 minutes on the clock, all right, he's just going to tank all his time, and I'm probably going to win. But then Sindarov started coordinating his pieces really nicely, and threatening forks and stuff. King g1, now white can't castle, but I guess he's just relying that the king is on a good castling position anyway. Knight f4, and Sindarov just started taking over this game, man. Not only that, he started playing faster, and he got the time gap from 12 to 4. Bishop d5 was played, and then the queen went to g3. Magnus still kind of trying to attack here. It's clear that he's a pawn down, but he's looking for initiative. Sindarov shutting down the play, just like Magnus did in the previous game with the queenside pawns. And Magnus, he went for it here with some attack. But there is no attack. He went he played into this f5 thing, and he on purpose sacrificed a rook. I'm not going to yell it because he just kind of moved it to be captured. He just gave Sindarov the rook, but his logic was the dark squared blockade prevents black from making long-term progress. Now, if white had a pawn on b4 and put the bishop on e5 and a pawn on f4, I might believe it. That actually genuinely looks like some degree of a blockade. There is hope, though, for black to break out of this position in the long run. What ultimately happens, though, is not that, because Magnus's intuition is correct, and he does create a almost bulletproof blockade on the dark squares. Sindarov is down to 50 seconds to 7.5 minutes for the second time, really causing a heart attack for all Sindarov fans, looking for, queen trade. And Magnus somehow in this position totally equalizes now. Now he gets Sindarov to give up his rook, right? Sindarov was going to lose. He ends up on time. He ends up giving up the rook to go to an endgame. Magnus has 7 minutes and an endgame. Now, black is up 2 pawns, but it hardly feels that way. It feels like he's up 1 pawn, if anything. And now Sindarov has 40 seconds to 7 minutes. How can he possibly pull this off? He can't, right? Rook e5, Magnus plays rook e5, rook c5. Typical nice conversion. Okay, Sindarov takes some outside pawn. He's obviously looking for play, but his king is really weak. Queen c1 check, Magnus goes here, rook g4, okay, scary. We obviously just prevent anything. Queen e1. Now Magnus just going to rip open e6, f5, and go for the king. And the game will likely end in a draw by perpetual check. Except it doesn't. And Sindarov is up on time. And before you know it, this man, Sindarov, outplays Magnus Carlsen in a freaking endgame with 30 seconds to 7 minutes on the clock, and he wins the game. He's just up multiple pawns. The king comes to help. Beautiful technique. Rook is going to h5. Pawns are promoting. What just happened? This dude was on the verge of elimination. Down a game, down 7 minutes. Whole game spinning out of control. He just clutches it. There's a famous video on YouTube of Magnus losing to Nodirbek Abdusatorov at the World Blitz or World Rapid Championship. I don't remember how many years ago this was. I think it was 2021. It's like, this teenager from Uzbekistan made Magnus lose his cool. Yo, here's another one, Sindarov, 19 years of age, World Cup champ. This dude is a problem. He's a real problem, Sindarov. Like, he is, and what I'm about to show you in these tie breaks is only going to further solidify that fact. This dude emerged almost out of nowhere. Like, he was very well known amongst the chess insiders, but now that he's playing more with the top 10 to 20 players of the world consistently, yeah, you guys got to become Sindarov fans, man. No disrespect to Nodirbek. You can root for 2 Uzbeks. But, he's a real problem. So now these guys have to play blitz. Okay, Magnus is going to settle in, obviously. He's going to lock it down. This is what he does. d4, knight b3. It's a 5-minute game. And also, Sindarov's time management is questionable, right? Knight b6. He's not going to be able to pull off such comebacks against Magnus all the time. But in this game, I mean, he just gets a great opening. Everything is looking pretty nice. Problem is that Magnus is just faster. And before you know it, Sindarov has a minute on the clock. So he has a minute to play the rest of the game. We're on move 12, 13. Yeah, that's bad news. That's bad news. And Magnus has 250 and a lot more experience. So, he's not going to do what he just did. Sometimes it happens. But here comes g5. Sindarov, bishop d3, trying to keep the tension. 35 seconds on the clock. It's a bullet game. And Magnus is a pawn up. Queen goes all the way to a7. Rook c8. Solid defensive move. Queen back to f2. He brings the bishop back. It's like, now what? Takes on h4. But in comes the queen. He tried to grab a pawn back, but Magnus takes on g2. Mate is threatened. This was given a double question mark. That seems kind of brutal, but that's actually because white can play knight f6 check. But Sindarov plays this move with 5 seconds on the clock. Queen f2, king f2. And now we have a time scramble endgame. All right, you got a time scramble endgame for the second time against the GOAT of endgames. And black is simply a pawn up, and I have very bad news. It's quite literally the worst pawn. Now, if this pawn was here, it's also bad, but, well, no, it's quite bad if it's there. But if the pawn was there, it's not the same. This is an outside pass pawn. Will Magnus win this game by utilizing his outside pass pawn and putting sustained endgame pressure on the opponent on multiple sides of the board until he cracks? And the answer is yes. He utilized the outside pass pawn. He put pressure on all the sides of the board. Sindarov loses a pawn. The H pawn ultimately is coming down the board. H2 is decisive, and Magnus wins. That's literally all he needed. He just needed an outside pass pawn. Okay, so Magnus has a 2-1 lead for today's games, and now Sindarov is obviously going to lose. It's about time, right? We're hyping up Magnus in these recaps. Allow me to show you one of the goofiest games you have ever seen in your life. So, d4. All right, e5, d5. In this setup of the of the early game, black can castle this way with this rook. So you need to move that rook there or forward. And this would be a castle kingside, and you would need to move all deux trois, right? And then you would need to castle in that way. So instead of that, well, we're gonna get some pawn moves in the beginning of the game. Sindarov with the black pieces has to play for a win for the second time. F4. All right, we're locking up the position. Magnus now should go for G4. He does, and friendly reminder, he loves early queen moves in this format. F5, and the position is very complicated. Sindarov activating the dark squared bishop on this diagonal and trying to keep up a little bit on the clock. Knight G4 threatens a smothered mate. That's a nice meme move. But Knight C4 discovered check, and now H5 is a very nice move. The idea of which is after Knight H6 to sacrifice the rook. Rook H... What? Yeah, Queen E5 comes in. It's given a question mark. It should just shut up. That's the top second move of the computer. Point is, you're trying to trade the queen, after which the bishop is hanging, after which the pawn on B2 is hanging, after which, like, Knight E3 is incoming, D5 is hanging, and black just wants this massive orb of pawns in the middle of the board. Magnus avoids it, but then we have Knight D2, a queen trade, and Sindarov just gets this pawn blob. And you know, as you approach the endgame, that pawn blob does begin to look scarier and scarier because he's going to push it down the board. But again, it's an endgame. My money is on Magnus. A4, he grabs the second pawn. Sindarov now has one pawn up, actually. He has a knight and 3 pawns for a rook. So black has 7 pawns. White only has 4. And so we have bishop a2, bishop e6, stable, and look at the time. Look at the time. This is a huge improvement from Sindarov, who's improving during the match. You know what he's not improving? His heart rate. His heart rate at this point is 140 beats per minute. Dude, that is my heart rate when I'm playing tennis. Bishop takes a5. Knight to c6. Magnus scrambling. Bishop back to c3. Here comes the king. The king and the pawns are coming down the board. The king and the pawns, they're coming. Now we have 2 bishops versus rook and bishop with pawns. All Sindarov has to do here is prevent his pawns from getting attacked and advance his pawns together. And right here in a scramble, he outmaneuvers the best player in the world and best endgame player, may I say. Plays bishop d2 and his pawns are coming in. Look at this. He has mated bishop e3. It is a red carpet for the center pawns. Javahir Sindarov is beating Magnus Carlsen in another endgame scramble. But there is no time. King to e1. The bishop goes to d3. Magnus only has one way to get the counterplay going. He plays b5. He's trying to queen. The move g4, just coming down the board, wins the game now for black. G4, g3. Sindarov has 5 seconds on the clock. He takes the pawn. He doesn't want to allow any counterplay, but he loses a pawn in the center of the board. Now he has to re-win the game, and he is no longer winning. Just kidding. He's winning. Bishop c3, king d1. There's some ridiculous ways to save the position, but both guys are trying to play every move in 3 to 5 seconds. We have rook to a3, bishop back to b4, trying to remove the rook, and Magnus sacks the rook to make a queen first. But it's actually really epic because there's bishop b3 check, and he also queens. Here is what Magnus is relying on, the check. He's down a piece, but he's going to try to make a perpetual check. Now, here's the thing about this position. You have to run that way. Because after check here, king f6 check, queen h8, king f7, check on h7, king e8, the king is able to zigzag out of the check. So you have to go boop, 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 boop. You have to make a little loop and run away from the queen. But Sindarov goes this way, and that is wrong. But after check, this is also wrong. I mean, they both have to make every move in a few seconds. The king is trying to escape the vortex. King to a5. Now, the unfathomable queen c6 is the only drawing move. No human on the planet is playing that. You're obviously trying to give a million checks. And this is now a mistake. But this is also a mistake. Magnus here could have went queen c6 and queen e4. And the king is literally just stuck. It can't escape. Queen c6, queen e4. He blunders also. He has no time on the clock. Plays king d6, queen b6. But this is a draw. This is a draw because the bishop is able to come help. Unbelievable. Sindarov was just moments away from clutching it. The bishop comes to help. Sindarov ends up trying to, run away, but he loses both bishops. Can you believe it? Both bishops. And Magnus Carlsen, some 60-something moves later, saves the day because his king is coming back, and you will not make it through with the bishop and the pawn playing defense. And he knocks out Sindarov from the semifinal. Magnus, due to his calendar year of results in this event, already made it to, he already won. So he's already the champion. He's trying to win this event, but he's already the champion. So congratulations to Magnus. Shocking that the tournament that he plays in, he wins. So that's cool. And Sindarov will now play for the 3rd and 4th place match. And a couple of other updates as we go around. We had a really wild semifinal game between Levon and Vincent Keymer, both of them champions. One in Germany, one in Vegas, and I think Magnus won in Paris. Yeah, this one went to the rapid tiebreak. Rather, I should say the blitz tiebreak. This one was hilarious. So Levon in this game in some 20 moves did Levon things. He got a totally winning position. He outmaneuvered Vincent, put a beautiful knight in the middle of the board, and obviously these games are ultimately decided by these scrambles. Levon coordinated the pieces beautifully. Look at this rook on the 7th rank. Bishop targeting the black king, right? The second rook is incoming. And Vincent blundered. He tried to create counterplay, but all he did was actually make things worse for himself, because the second rook is coming in. You're going to take the knight when you're ready. You're going to try to take the pawn. You're going to try to take a5 and c5. And after knight d6, he simply loses the d5 pawn. And I mean, bishop c6 is like we go home. I mean, bishop c6, black has to sacrifice. Otherwise, he has to put his king in the center and probably just lose to rook h7 or rook d1. And what instead happens is in this position, Levon plays rook h7 instead of bishop c6. Black plays g5. Levon plays rook h6. And he's still winning, but he has to play knight f7, which is a tricky move to play in 5 seconds because everything is staring at everything. And Levon blunders. He misses f3 with a sudden opening up on the king. That is a fork, and Vincent Keymer is winning the game. This is crazy. Knight takes f8. He gives a check. He gets rid of the rook, and somehow white is just worse. And I think you just don't recover from something like this, because ultimately what happens here is white is down a piece. If you count the material, black has an extra knight. White has an extra pawn. And he gets a second pawn back, but that's just not going to be good enough. Black literally just has an extra bishop. He's winning. Now, can he win this position? Debatable. You know, it's a little bit messy. Might not be so easy to win this, but he's obviously going to try. We're in a scramble. And right here is the end of the game, actually, if bishop d6 is played. And the point of bishop d6 is bishop f5 is mate, actually. So white doesn't have a way to defend that. So Vincent Keymer, bishop d6, and the game is over. Insane, completely insane comeback. Instead of the move bishop d6, which is -6 and wins on the spot, not only does Vincent Keymer not find it, he loses the game on the spot. Because suddenly, bishop g4 comes in, and you don't just lose one bishop, you might lose both bishops, but at a minimum, you're going to be down 2 pawns in an endgame. Completely insane scenes. Levon Aronian is winning once again. The chess gods shine brightly upon him. They were like, no, you did really well. We really want you to win this one. So yeah, take this one all the way to the bank, a4, and that is simply the end of the game. You are not going to defend this. There is no counterplay left for black because the white just walks over. Bishop a6, a8, or even rook b8 is good enough. And you simply win. And the finals will be, he won the next one as well, Levon versus Magnus Carlsen. It's a very exciting one because I do think Levon loves this format a lot, and he is very, very strong, and he actually knocked out Magnus in Vegas and Hikaru, if I'm not mistaken. So that's very fun, you know? That's super exciting. And the other matchups which decide 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, we had Eric Geisy versus Niemann. This one I'm mostly going to be clicking through because we are 23 minutes into this and like 70 to 80% of the people have left. Plus these guys are not playing for a top podium finish. And also we know who won the entire Grand Slam already, which, yeah. Magnus, why are you going to win everything, dude? Can you let us have a little bit of suspense until the end? Eric Geisy was in great form today. Honestly, these blitz games in freestyle are like almost lottery tickets. Like they are so tricky and... Okay, look, I do have to show a little bit of respect here, but, you know, obviously it's a crazy tactical game. Look at Eric Geisy, a man after my own heart. I guarantee Eric Geisy, when he played Rook A6, thought of my voice. I just have a feeling. When he played Rook A6, he probably thought, the Rook! He knew it. You know, Rook takes A6, beautiful move. Obviously, he wants to play Queen C7, but he wants it to be a check. Otherwise, Black will do some stuff over here with the check and so on. So this is nice, because if King takes its mate, if Pawn takes its mate... And this is nice, massive attacking game from Eric Geisy. Very complicated back and forth. But, yo, freestyle blitz is like darts. Like, really, they might as well... Well, darts is a game of skill. But, I don't know. I don't know. Play like blackjack. It's just so random. It is difficult to play any type of structure with 5 minutes on the clock in total randomness. We also had Caruana Magsudlu. Magsudlu has probably had a good trip in South Africa, but the chess part has not been great. Before this matchup, he was 0 out of 9, which is crazy because he is one of the strongest grandmasters in the world. But in freestyle events, this always happens to at least one person. And in his matchup against Fabiano Caruana, he managed to get on the board. They did draw one game, and Parham has been in every game. Like, it's not like, you know, he is losing out of the opening. He doesn't understand freestyle. Like, no, I mean, it's just this is an relenting format, and certain strategies just don't work. And like, you know, here, black is struggling to kind of get out and create, like, clear targets, and after bishop f5, black has just lost. He's just lost because the idea is to take the knight and just play knight f5, and the reason you couldn't take the knight immediately is because if you went like this, black would play, you know, rook g8. But by playing bishop f5 first, you force the rook to a square, e3, d6, or e7, where after this, the rook is hanging. Insane. So this little, like, in between, you know, stutter step, d6 here, and that's it. And black is losing immediately. And Parham fights on. He goes down the exchange. Fabi just has to, you know, convert a position, up a rook for a bishop, which I think he can do. I'm not sure I would be able to do. Fabi got there in the end. It was a little bit dicey for a moment, but what really helped him was the safe king. The king was not able to be, you know, in any form of counterplay. The queen comes in, the rook is going to b8. And Fabi wins. Parham got on the board, but he will play against Niemann for 7th and 8th. If he wins against Niemann, then Hans will get last, which is shocking. Fabi will play Erigaisi for 5th and 6th. And I guess Keymer will play Sindarov for 3rd and 4th. And that is your recap of the second to last ever freestyle recap in 2025. Frankly, I don't even know what's happening with 2026. I have no idea what's going to happen. There have been no announcements, only rumblings of whatever. I don't know. And so I don't know. This could be the second to last recap ever. I kind of doubt that. I think at a minimum, they will always have one in Germany, like at the home turf. But I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens. But I have not heard anything about a plan for 2026. That's all I have for you today. Get out of here.